Northern England is a shithole. London is now a city-state divorced from the rest of the country, and as a result, investors should avoid the FTSE 100 and UK markets. Northern England, Wales, and Cornwall are now literally the poorest parts of the European continent. Just think for a moment how absolutely crazy that is. That the UK, once held as, one of the top 5 richest countries in the world or something like that, now has almost all of the top 10 poorest areas in the entirety of Europe, the only exception being number 9, an area in Belgium. Other than 9 out of 10 of the poorest areas in the European continent are in the UK. Now, already I can hear the leftists screeching, oh, well, this is because of Brexit. This is because you gammons did this to yourselves. No, it's not. You don't know what you're talking about. You're living in London. Shut up. Most of the poor areas you can see listed on the screen here are all parts of the UK that relied completely on local industry. My town, Grimsby, for example, it was the fishing town. Sheffield was the steel town. Manchester, well, back in the Victorian period, was the cotton town, I believe. And then the Tyneside and Teesside were the coal mines. And I say all this in the past tense because that has now gone over the span of a couple decades. And it wasn't Brexit that did this. This has been going on for 20 to 30 years, the deindustrialization of the North. People have said in the comments of my house price video on Broken Britain, why don't we just fill up these abandoned houses in the north? Because in many northern towns, like especially around Teesside and areas like that, and possibly in areas like West Wales as well, here, the number 1 poorest, many of these areas have abandoned houses, and they're all boarded up. And well, the answer to that is the reason why they're boarded up is because you liberals drove these people out of those towns to begin with, because you liberals took away the industry. It was liberalism and the liberal establishment, mainly based in London, that took away the industry of the North and Wales. Because basically what happened was, a lot of it was done during the Thatcher era, but if you ignore Thatcher for a minute and just look at the underlying societal causes as to why this happened, it's because the liberal establishment got all high and mighty, and they believed that, this country was too good to be doing this kind of cheap manual labour, and that it should just be exported to countries like India and China. I've said this before. I think I said this in my liberalism video on why liberalism is a death cult and why it's going to be the end of us all. In that, left-wing people and people who are fervent believers in the left-wing establishment, they unironically believe that they are better than everyone else. They unironically believe that, no, Britain should not be doing these manual labour jobs. Britain should not have steel factories and, coal mines and things like that, because we're too environmentally friendly for that. We need to virtue signal on Twitter and on Facebook about how eco-friendly the UK is, about how few emissions the UK puts out. Local councils and governments are obsessed with that crap. Or, Lincolnshire is now putting out X amount of carbon emissions. But it's all stupid. It's all wrong, because those carbon emissions haven't vanished off the face of the earth. All you've done is moved them to another country. So all you've done there is expose your own ego. You've exposed that all you're interested in is making sure that you, as a bourgeois liberal, don't ever have to come near commoners and don't have to come near coal miners and fishermen and people who do manual labour. Just going off of my eyes alone on the ground in Grimsby and seeing how bad deindustrialisation in the north has been, I would estimate, without even looking at the figures, that about 80% of this town is on state benefits. There is so little employment here. The only employment that you do see in the local area is tradesmen. Builders, maybe, people doing building supplies, plumbers, electricians, carpenters, businesses like that. They are still doing okay because those businesses are based on for houses and real estate and things like that. So those businesses are all doing relatively okay. However, anything that was based on the one industry that all of these one industry towns in the north were based on, all of those are now unemployed. They don't have a job anymore. I mean, from my school days, I'd estimate about at least 70 to 80% of the kids I knew in school in Grimsby have most likely left the town because there's just no jobs here. And when you walk around a town like Grimsby, you see that almost everyone now is old. Like all the only people who are left in the town now are boomers who remember how it used to be back in the good old days, because all the young people have left. Because how are you going to expect young people to survive in a town that literally has no industry? And who is to blame for this? It is the Liberals. The Liberals pushed this onto the entire country. The North never wanted this. The reason why the North is the home of the Brexit gammons is because the North has always been industry orientated, and people in the North have always been very proud about their industry. I mean, ask a Tyneside or a Teesside person about, the history of coal mining. They love that. They love to talk to you about their local industry. Talk to Grimsby people about the fishing industry. They'll rattle on about it to you for hours, because these industries were the pride and soul of these towns, and that soul of these towns has literally just been ripped out of them, and all that's left are these shallow husks that are now getting filled with immigrants, because a lot of these abandoned properties and everything, and a lot of the outflow from these towns from the white British population is now just going to be replaced with a dependent immigrant population, who, by the way, by and large, are not contributing to the country. Yes, there will be some immigrants who are net contributors, and those people should definitely stay. Those people are fine. However, a lot of the immigrants that you see, especially in the north of England, where a lot of them have been dumped in places like Leeds and Bradford, most of them are on state benefits. Most of them are not contributing, and they are effectively a serf class to the managerial elite, to the government. I mean, for Christ's sake, you all know this system can't go on forever. You know this clown show will stop eventually. The question is, when is it going to stop, and how badly is it going to stop? You all know something is seriously wrong here, but I think out of fear, many of you don't speak up about this, or if you do speak up, you're scoffed at by the liberal order. I think if the North, Wales and Cornwall want to survive, we're going to have to reject liberalism. See my video on liberalism for more details on this and why you have to reject liberalism if you want to live, basically. By us no longer accepting the liberal order will collapse because it's entirely built on our consent. The reason why the liberal order has been able to get things to this level is because the white British population, especially in areas like the north, have just, gone along with it. They've played the game a little bit and been like, oh, well, yes, I guess it's all right to have infinity migrants in our country because some of them are on the England football team. That whole kind of pathetic attitude, I think, is going to wane very, very quickly over the next 5 years when people, especially in the north of England, see how bad things have gotten. And to bring this all back to the finances that I mentioned at the start of this video, the takeaway for everyone on this really is that if you're working in a company that is based in the north of England, I think you really should think about how poor you actually are compared to the rest of the world. Because I think a big problem of the white British in the north of England is that they just accept their situation. They think that, scraping together 20 quid desperately to, make a £20 purchase, they think that's normal. They think, bargain hunting and trying to scrape off like 50 pence off of a pack of beans or something, they think that's a normal thing to do. It isn't. Most people would let 50p fall out of their arse and not even notice it. You people are extremely poor. Look at this map here. You are the poorest people in the continent. You are poorer than Polish farmers. You are poorer than people who have donkeys in Romania. I think the only reason why London hasn't seen North FC marching down the fields of Hertfordshire with pitchforks at them is because of this apathetic attitude that the North has in that, oh, well, this is just the way things are. And that attitude for Northerners really needs to stop. You need to wake up to how poor you actually are. Because only when you wake up to how poor you actually are will you realise that something needs to be done. If you never wake up to it, then it'll just keep getting worse and worse, and you'll keep getting poorer and poorer until it gets so bad that, you know, you literally can't even afford food. You can't afford a bottle of water. And for the richer people listening to this, I think this should be a big warning sign to you all that, you know, the underclasses in the UK are very pissed off. They are not happy with the situation and the liberal order that the left-wing establishment have created. They are not happy with you. And honestly, you should be very, very thankful that the white British in the north are extremely kind people, and the worst they've done is voted Brexit. In so many other countries around the world, if this was the case with a part of a country in, say, the Middle East or in Africa, you would have had a revolution years ago. There would be heads on spikes. Your body would be laying in an empty ditch. The only reason you lot are allowed to get away with all this, and by you lot I mean the liberal establishment and the government, is because of the kindness and the compassion of the North FCs, of the white British population. And I would issue a warning to you all right now that that patience amongst the poorest in our society is waning, and your time is numbered. You know, you need to start pandering to these people very sharpish, or else it's not going to end well for you. And if you're an investor, like I said at the beginning of this video, whether you're a UK investor or an international investor, just stay away from the FTSE 100. Stay away from the UK markets, because Airstrip One is now closed.